I want to talk for a few minutes about ministry fire versus ministry burnout. And how to keep that balance. Anybody ever been burned out before? Okay, not fun, is it? Not pleasant, and it's one of my jobs is to help keep people from burning out. And so can't always do that, but I'm trying to keep some balance and trying to be responsive to people and try to help them out when they're feeling stressed and give them a break if they need it. So that's all those things fit together. So I wanted to talk to you guys about a few things in my mind that help keep the ministry fire going and keep us away from ministry burnout over the long haul. And one of those first things that you see right there in the paper is Jesus first. If Jesus is not your first priority, if He is not the center of your life and the reason why you do what you do, then your risk of ministry burnout is going to be very high. Because if you're not centered on Jesus, you are relying on yourself and your efforts to do something that is a spiritual job. You don't have the capacity to do a spiritual job on your own. That's kind of the point. We have to be relying on God as our strength, as our source, as the center of our life, our very biggest and most important priority over everything else. And so if we're burning out, that's one of the first things to look at. Who are we trusting in? What are we building our life in? Who's our source? What's your devotional life like? Are you spending time talking to God? Are you spending time reading your Bible? Are you spending time worshiping God? If that stuff's not happening, then burnout's almost guaranteed. Okay? So let's put on this side self-reliance. Any question on that? Anybody disagree with me? Everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay. The second thing is balance of life. I'm going to say correct balance over here. And over here I'm going to say incorrect balance. We all have multiple roles that we have to play. We're parents, some grandparents, we are spouses, we are, some of us, working outside jobs, some homemakers. We just have all these different roles in our life, and trying to balance them and keep them all going at the same time is extremely challenging and often an art form. All right? Now, the first step in that is making sure your priorities are right. You ever see the illustration about the guy trying to put rocks, pebbles, sand, and water into a container? And if you put the water in first, and then the sand, and then the pebbles, and then the rocks, you'll never get the big rocks in. But if you put the big rocks in first, the most important stuff, and then the little stuff kind of fills in the cracks. But you got to keep the primary things, the primary things. All right? And Jesus has got to be the primary thing. After that, and this is from pastoral experience, and we can go to the Word if you need on this. After that, I'm just going to encourage you, your spouse needs to be next. Regardless of whether this is your first spouse or not, regardless of whether this is your baby daddy or baby mama or not. The kids are going to grow up. They will move out, hopefully. And then you're going to be stuck with that person. And the idea is for you to be stuck with them happily for the rest of your life. But if you put the kids as your second priority in your life, what happens is what happens to a lot of couples at about the 20-year mark when the kids move out, the empty nest thing hits, they don't know each other, and they get divorced. They've just been holding it together for the kids. Okay? So the second priority in your life has to be your spouse. And from a pastoral perspective, I want you to know your marriage is far more important to me than your ministry involvement. Okay? Third, your kids. They're important, but your spouse has to be more important. Alright? Now fourth, once you get those big rocks in, there's a little bit of wiggle room. Okay? Probably work, home environment, stuff like that. Next, I would say church ministry, and then extra activities, family, friends, fun, hobbies, stuff like that. Those are a little bit negotiable, but that's kind of what I think is the best and most balanced way to look at it. And one of the things I just want to encourage, and I'm probably singing to the choir here, is that when it comes to, it concerns me, let me just say it this way, I'll try to be gentle. It concerns me when I see parents doing things that communicate that school activities and sports are more important than spiritual activities. It's communicating something deeply to kids that is going to translate into how they live their adult lives. I've even, not here, but in other situations, I have seen parents that when their kids misbehaved or didn't do their homework, their first line of punishment was to take away a youth group. So basically the message is, if I want to be bad and get away from God, all I've got to do is be bad and I'll get away from God. My parents will help me. So that's kind of why I do and say this needs to be this. I have seen people try to make it with an incorrect balance. I've seen work very closely with couples that would admit that my spouse is number 6 or 7 down here. It's not going to work. It's just not. Can't. So, keeping life balance is an important part. All right, understanding why. And I'm talking about your ministry involvement. Why? How does this fit? What difference does this make? Now I want you to think for a moment for the ministry or ministries that you are involved in. See if you can answer that question, not right now. Why am I doing this? Write it down on your paper. Why? And when I say how does this fit, I don't mean how do you fit this in your schedule. I mean, how does this fit in the big picture of life and ministry and the church? Is what you're doing even important? If you don't feel it's important, if you don't feel that it has an important role, why are you going to do it? It's just busyness, and everybody's, I mean, it's more fun to sit on the couch and do nothing. Unless you're really bored. But I don't think that fits anybody in this room. And what difference does this make? And this is a question that you need to go back to frequently. Now, I will admit to you and tell you that ministry stuff is not very tangible. When you come out of children's church and there are kids acting up and you're pulling your hair out and you don't feel like you're able to get the lesson across and things just went all wrong, you're going to say, what difference does this make? It doesn't make any difference. I'm giving up, never doing this again. Okay? That's where really the spiritual part comes in, because that's with eyes of faith. You've got to understand that it's that consistent caring and putting into kids' lives that will make a difference 20, 30, 40 years from now. Jesus said, my word will not return void. And we are planting the word of God in young lives. It is going to grow, it is going to return if that's what we're planting. Now if we're planting good works, if we're planting just being nice, if we're planting all this other stuff, fun activities, that might not last. But God's word will. You know, and I can remember back in my life to a couple particular teachers at different times that went out of their way to minister to me when I was going through stuff, and it had a significant impact on my life. I remember one Sunday school teacher in particular. I remember another one when we visited a church and they had no Sunday school class, and I brought a friend with me to church service that day, and this guy that didn't have a lesson, wasn't planning on being a Sunday school teacher, but it's a small church, and bang, there's two 12-year-old boys there. Well, let's go have a Sunday school class. He pulled out his Bible and he gave us a Sunday school class. All right? I remember that. That's significant. All right? So you've got to keep that kind of long-term vision. Now, when you're baking or fixing something on your house, you do the work, it's done. Wow, I did a good job. There's an immediate return on investment. You see the results. Ministry's not that way. But you got to keep your eye on what is really happening and what is coming about. And sometimes you need help people to help remind you. Sometimes you need to write things down. And when you get reminders that you've been able to be used by God to have an impact on somebody's life, you need to write that down, you need to keep it, and you need to be able to refer back to it. Because the enemy will come after you and tell you, you're just wasting your time, you're not making a difference in anybody's life anyway. Anybody been there?
I have too, yeah. Somebody
Okay.
told me that. Yeah.
So, number 4, understanding the rhythms of life. Talking about dealing with stress, having realistic expectations. There are sometimes, some things are going on in our lives when you can jump in, you can do a lot. There are other times when you can't. And you don't need to feel guilty about that. You just need to be realistic. This is where God has me right now. I'd rather be doing 19 things in church, and helping out and being a blessing, but I can't. Maybe I can't even do one right now. Maybe I can only do one. It's okay. All right? Just be faithful with what God's, He's steering your life. Be faithful with where He's placed you. Okay? What is your payback? For each of us, what is meaningful to you, what is rewarding to you might be a little different. What is it for you? When you're ministering to kids, when you're doing what God's called you to do, what is it that, if it happens, you go, wow, that was great, this was really worth it. Now ultimately, our payback is getting to that place where we finally see God face to face and He looks at us and says, well done, good, faithful servant. All right? But in the meantime, we got some little things that happen. So I want you to try to think about it for a moment and write that down. What's my payback? And write that down. What's that thing that really makes it worthwhile to you? It might be a response from a kid. It might be a... Recognition and appreciation is another real important thing. We're not supposed to need it. Our pride says we don't need it. But really when it comes down to it, we need it. And some people need it more than others. Now here's the problem. If we spend a lot of time patting ourselves on the back, okay, good job, Gus. All right? People get annoyed at me for talking so good about myself all the time. And I could break my arm. At least get, knock my shoulder out of joint. Okay, so that's not really a very practical way to get your appreciation and your positive feedback, your recognition. So what we do is we develop a culture where we are watching to appreciate, to recognize, to thank, and just be polite and kind to one another. Thanks for doing that. You did a great job. Really appreciate that. And for that to be just a part of what we do, that's Church of the Rock culture. That's just how we live. We're looking for good things that people have done. We're looking for ways to appreciate people, say thank you, things like that. And that way, if all of us are just kind of living on a heightened level of alert to give other people appreciation, and that becomes a part of the culture, the old saying, what goes around, comes around. The feedback, the recognition, the appreciation that you need, but you don't want to admit you need, will be there because other people are honestly giving, because we're focused more on others than we are ourselves. It becomes, one, a healthier environment, and one, a whole lot more fun to work in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so of the probably close to 80 people or so that are volunteering on a regular basis in any sort of CFM ministry, I've got 12 here tonight. So I'm sharing this with you to help me make this contagious and to really share it around with everybody else. So let's also talk about some things are motivating to others, some are demotivating to others. Okay? We had a very short time to do this because my brother Claude shared with me a couple of months ago that a demotivator for him is a meeting that lasts more than an hour and a half. I've got 5 minutes left.
But he came late.
He also came out of another meeting, so he's probably way past his time anyway. So help me out here with things that are positive motivators that help you to keep that ministry fire, and things that are demotivators, things that kind of like, oh, why am I doing this?
Negativity.
Which one?
Yeah, over there.
That's the biggest, you know, if you're feeling really good and someone comes along and, you know,
Yeah.
oh,
So they're just spewing their negativity, not even necessarily at you or anything you did, they're just being negative.
and they want you to be negative with them. That's the bad thing. Misery likes miserable company. That's hard, and it's hard to walk away from that. And it's hard to feel good when you, it's everywhere we go. It's on our jobs, it's everywhere.
That's,
Yeah, one of the things, I'm trying to think, I was in some sort of leadership thing a couple of years ago, and one of the guys, the bulk of one of the messages or the lessons is to learn how to take your own climate with you. Wherever you go, you are not determined, your attitude, whether it's negative or positive, is not determined by your circumstances or the people around you. You bring your own climate with you. It's your choice. It's a hard one to make. I mean, a lot of us aren't wired that way, our families weren't that way, we're not used to it. Well, if you haven't got something to complain about, you're not even part of this family.
That's right.
So something else. Demotivator, motivator.
Organization,
motivator.
motivator.
You know, we probably should do the opposites here. Positivity. Right?
Yep,
Yeah.
disorganization.
Cutting class is short.
Sorry.
Cutting classes short?
Yes.
Or maybe
Pastor comes in, you got 5 minutes. I'm like, shut up. You know, 5 minutes left. You know, I mean, we don't really have a lot of time. It's when I know I got to go in there and teach. You only got 20 minutes. It's like, what do I want to grab first? What are these guys really,
Yeah.
what lesson do I really want to teach them?
Yes.
I love teaching with you. And you know, and I'll look right at her and I'll say, Kristen, just jump in anytime, you know? Because I can talk and I'll get off subject. But I'm like, oh, wait a minute, these guys are only, you know? So, but no, I don't go that far, but she does. Kristen's really good about that. And Janet was too when I was working with Janet, but
So
yeah,
what's
it's cutting
the opposite?
the opposite of that, let the kids get out early for church.
on time, because a long
On
class
time.
could be just as, I'm out of things to do.
It's
Pastor's
stress, it
over
does.
preaching.
It's very stressful when we're getting out quick. I don't know if that's going with that, but you know, that's me.
I thought on letting the kids out earlier. Often I've noticed they're getting out after announcements. What if we let them out before announcements?
The goal right now is to try to get them out at 30 minutes after the service starts. So that the teachers, we have 45 minutes with them. That's what we're aiming for. So once in a while, if we've got a lot of stuff on the front end, you know, like we had more stuff with the care ministry. We did some of this, we stopped worship early, did some of the stuff, and I got up there, did a couple quick announcements, got the kids out at 30 after. So that's our goal, but sometimes we need to be aware if worships are getting cut short, the teachers actually need to be in there a little early. Because it's getting dismissed a little earlier. And then sometimes pastor tries to get worship service done on time, but particularly if we've got special speakers, it can go way over. You know, we've had a couple in the past few months that, one this spring that went like a half an hour over, 40 minutes over second service. You know, so, but that pastor was not happy about that, because one of the biggest things for him is trying to respect the time frame of the teachers so that they're not, you know, I've got 15 minutes one day and an hour the next, what's up with that? You know?
Yeah.
You got 45 minutes, and then if we're doing the pre-thing, you got 30 minutes, that's what we're shooting for. 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Good idea, okay.
Okay? Kristen, you were raising your hand, you had a,
No.
okay? Motivators, demotivators?
Actually, I did. Feeling alone would be
Oh, good one.
demotivating.
Support.
Can I editorialize that and say part of a team? We're in this together.
Criticism and ridicule. Negative.
I'm getting a little tired tonight. All right. Positive?
Probably just a subset of positive.
Well, positivity here, we're talking about attitude mostly.
Well, the positive feedback that you were talking about earlier.
Becca says encouragement.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Dictionary. It's got its thesaurus right
She
there.
has
Yeah.
I have a negative.
You got a negative?
When people only talk to you when they need something from you, and only notice that you're missing if something's not getting better.
Because I don't think there's any bonding
Plain and-
amongst some parents, some new, teachers, or not teachers, but maybe just new teachers. There's no bonding. The women haven't bonded. Some women haven't bonded, Some women are, geared just to come in to teach, whatever, and just maybe go to you and say, something. And, or need something out of the resource room. Barb, where is that? No, I'm just kidding. But, I'm just saying, some women just don't bond, so.
So what's the other side?
Relationships, to have some sort of interaction with each other. I can say hi and bye just like that in a heartbeat to somebody going through church, and that's it.
See,
And
now,
it's sad.
here's part of the challenge. We've all got pretty full lives. We're giving time to our ministry, we're giving time to meetings like this, and then we're talking about friendships,
Our own friendships.
which really means more time.
More time, yeah.
But on a Sunday, you can have a genuine interest in what somebody else is going through, or, there's
I think we can take a step even, that's a good start. So we can take a step beyond that and look for ways to connect with each other in ways that's not going to consume too much time. If you're doing something, if you're going somewhere, invite somebody along. One of the best things I think is pretty much everybody eats after Sunday service.
I was just thinking that, we should have like a potluck for the workers.
We were thinking that too, we were talking about that.
Or even just, hey, I haven't ever really got any time to talk to you. Want to come over to my house for lunch today?
Right, just fellowship.
I've got stew on. It's nothing fancy, but hey, my house isn't cleaned up, but hey.
Yeah,
I'd like to get to know you a little better.
real gravy last night.
We talked about gotcha cards for a long time, like all your support people, give them a little card for free coffee and a donut, just a thank you.
It's free anyway, so.
Right.
And write somebody's name down on it and say, this person would like to meet you
You know what another great opportunity, I
Dating
know
service
it's
can be
hard, Gus, but when the parents, it's sad, but many parents, they really don't know us, they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And when that door opens, it's taking, and if there's a way for us to just step out, hey guys, we talked about this today, hopefully children are gonna talk to you, some way to talk to those people in the hallway. Because I tell you, it's just like, give me my kids.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I know.
Well, is getting the name tag something that a helper can do?
Could be. I want to reach those people in that hallway.
Yes,
because
what I'm saying
they're-
is,
Yeah,
if the teachers can focus more, I need to talk to the parents,
right.
so teen helper, co-teacher, you guys are gonna get the name tags from people. I'm gonna stand in the hallway and talk to the parents, tell them what we did today.
Right, because as a teacher in a school, when I see a parent in the hallway, they want to talk to me. They want to say something. And how do I get these people to want to talk to me? Because I'm teaching them the most important thing in their lives, right? About God. And I can't get to them. I mean, do you guys feel very disconnected with the parents in the hallway?
Yeah.
Another piece is to ask God to put somebody on your heart. And if you're not teaching that week, try to catch them.
Right.
Because you're still part of the team, even though, I'm not teaching this week, I don't have to talk to anybody. Well, you saw that parent, you saw them drop off their kid, you don't know their name, and then 3 weeks later, you're not teaching, and you see them in the hall or in the fellowship hall.
And hi and bye, because you don't know their name, but, you could
Be
be
the
bold
host.
like me sometimes, like, I'm Camille, I'm teaching,
Yeah.
you're teaching kids, or whatever.
Do you think those kind of little steps will
Right.
have a positive impact?
Yeah.
I just don't understand why they hide from us. They're like, hide in the hallway.
Because it's the expectation, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of them have an agenda, they just wanna pick up their kids and go on with the day.
But if they see the light of real interest and care in your eye,
Right.
What we're doing, yeah, absolutely. You mean what the teachers are doing? If the parents see what we're doing,
Yeah.
to teaching our kids? Yeah, that would make a big
Sometimes they open
difference.
the doors, like, come on in, we're just finishing up.
Yes.
I mean, is that okay to do that?
I think so, just
I
gotta
would
make
think-
sure the kids go home with the right person. That's all.
That's the hardest part.
It is.
Is it too much to compliment their child?
No?
I mean, like when they come to pick up their kid and they go, Lillian was a wonderful helper today, or, oh, Liam, man, he colored in the lines, he's doing really well, or.
Yeah, I just said this
little-
last week.
But just to have a compliment for each child for each Sunday, just
You can,
cute
that would
little.
be fantastic.
I mean, I end up doing We Rock, which only has like 5 to 10 kids at a time, but, between the helper who helps and the teacher,